Welcome. Today I'm going to talk about repotting this ficus I've had for several years, and I'm going to give the reasons why I am repotting it, some of which are I believe it is outgrown its proportions for the size of the pot. Its leaves are looking a little bit not well, and it just could do with a bit of a tidy up. So we'll do some checks and go from there. They say the pot depth should be equal to or greater than the root diameter. And it's 50 millimeters, the diameter, and this way it's slightly not, it's an oval shaped trunk, it's about 40 mil. So this old bonsai pot, to the underside of the pot to the top of the lip is about 60 mil. Now I've got about 10 mils below is the surface level of the pot, so that's down to 50, and then the thickness of the pot itself might be another 10 millimeters in this case. So I'd say the pot depth that I'm effectively using is 40 mil, and it's too small for the trunk. We've also got other ways of testing it. They say with an oval pot, this oval pot is 260 millimeters long and 200 millimeters wide. And in terms of proportion of the tree, we can say it's pretty much half a meter high, which is 500 millimeters. They say 2/3 of the height should be the long pot dimension, especially if you're using a rectangular pot as well. So that works out to be 330 mils is the recommended pot diameter. So if we're running in at 260, it's too small. I'll go get another pot. And here's one here. That's 340. So that's pretty much, that's the outside diameter. The inside diameter, so the effective is about 300. So, and the inside diameter of this one is 230. So we're basically going to give it more room in here. I'm also using, here's some bit of cheats. I just want to talk about my setup. I've got plastic trays, which are great for collecting rainwater, and the plant stays moister longer. So they could be thrown away. I've also used a microwave base glass, which I put on top of the Lazy Susie, which you can get any one you want, but this one I was given, and that keeps the moisture off the timber and easy to clean up. I've also used here, as I do my bonsais inside, because I can do it in the evenings and when I feel like it out of the cold in winter. And I use a drop cloth, which happens to just be an old shower curtain that's ripped at the top, and so that makes a great plastic impervious water protection for, say, if you had a timber tabletop. So that basically costs, $1. That was free. This was already purchased. So yeah, it doesn't cost really anything. I've got pliers, you can buy those, ruler, well, I've got a couple of bonsai tools which are more traditional just for the look. They're okay. This I really like. I inherited this, no idea where, but it's very powerful pincers, great for chopping close to the branch and cutting off different items. So that's good for the tough stuff. You can cut roots. This will last a long time. And the old kitchen fork, can't dispense with that. Good for raking. You can use it as a spade. Again, I don't use it to eat meals with anymore, but hey, you could. It's stainless steel, lasts a very long time. And a tape measure. The most expensive thing is some nice pots, which I've just brought. We've got this terracotta one, quite shallow, oval shape. We've got a glazed one here, which is nice and deep. Typically, as you get more mature bonsais, you're going to find you want greater depth for the root ball of the plant. I can't tell you all the plants that need different pot depths. I'm sure somebody who's an expert in that can tell you. I'm just pulling off the sticker. Also, I have a bucket which I just throw in all the leaf clippings and all the offcuts of the plant that I want to throw away at a later date. Two more bowls I haven't used. This one's a bit on the cheap side. It's only got 2 holes. It hasn't got the extra 4 holes, which seem to be quite common in bonsais for running your wires in if you need to tie down a sort of a top heavy plant that might blow away in the wind. I prefer not to tie them down. I use a counterweight system, which is basically some sort of heavy rock, which adds a bit of decoration. And here's another bowl that I've brought. This one's an ovally shape, quite deep. It's glazed. I think that helps stop the moisture evaporating out. Still got the drainage holes, the feet. It does have a lip and it's concave, which is not ideal, especially when you're trying to get dirt out. It's great for like if you have a rock top on you and you don't want the rocks to wash away. So that's not desirable, but I got it in that pot. But this one here has got no edge, much better. We're just going to move through this next stage as quick as I can, and I'm just showing you the plant. It's precariously leaning over the side. I guess I put that in for a bit of drama. And what else? It's quite offset in the pot, probably about 1/3 onto the edge here. So yeah, we'll talk about shaping the plant perhaps later, but let's dig it out. The ficus I have in the back garden of various ages tend to have a root that gets through the drainage hole. I don't know how it gets through, but roots seem to be able to penetrate rocks, etc., etc. I'm just loosening up around the edge just to help free it out. This rock, the roots have grown over it, so I quite like that. But somehow I'm just going to have to try and incorporate that when I remove it. But yeah, back to the pot outside. Well, they tend to send out a little taproot that finds the moisture and it goes through the clay pavers that I have and finds the moisture in the ground. And you can normally tell if it's got a taproot because the... Okay, so here's the ficus that is looking really healthy at the top, but as you can see it's rooted itself under that block out of the pot. It's following the water down into the ground like through rocks, and the plant looks really healthy, but that's not what we want in a bonsai. So here we go, let's give it a hoik, and yep, we got a bit of dirt going here, but that's it. Out. That pot we'll put to the side because we won't use that. Put that over there, just tidy up a bit of dirt. Goes everywhere. We can inspect the roots. I just use sandy garden soil most of the time. It's probably not the perfect soil, but that's what I use, and the plants seem to grow. And I have a fair bit of soil around. a lot of people recommend using proper potting mix, and I've seen quite a few pots planted on, very gravelly soil. But my concern is in Australia, that's where we are, is we get hot summers and that will just turn into a little rock oven and cook the roots. The roots need to stay moist. I have actually got a timer irrigation system that waters it. You can see how shallow that base is. So this ficus root system has been trained quite well, in my opinion, to sit on that. So I could put some more gravel in there. I'm just scraping a bit away just to have a look. You can sort of see it there. I'll show it to this camera side as well. Yeah, not too many circular roots. You don't want roots growing round in circles. So yeah, on the whole, that's sort of all right. So I have weeded the top of this. The problem with using garden soil is, and leaving plants outside, is the wind blows seeds of all sorts, including weeds, from pot to pot. So that's one of the problems of gardening. So there's a fair bit of dirt there that we can just put to the side. I quite like the oval shape. Seeing as it's quite a flat plant, we could try it and put it in this pot. Just having a look, because we need to prepare the holes. I'll do that in a second. That looks better, like it's not too big for the pot. We could look at straightening it up or twisting it around a bit more. So I think that could be quite good in there. We could just throw it in another pot to have a look. Over here, this deeper one. Now obviously that's sitting too low. I've even seen ramping the top. And also the colour of the pot. Blue's quite strong. I'm not too happy with that. I'll try this deeper round oval pot. There, I quite like the colour combination of that blue. So it's like a little boat, really. The tree and the boat. And I know I did say I didn't like the curly edges, but I might just do that one. Although, no, I think I'll try the flatter pot, even though I really like that colour. So next, I probably should have done that before I took it out of the pot, just so the roots don't dry. I need to get 2 bits of mesh, which I have over here. Well, 1 bit of mesh, and seeing as I'm frugal, I'll just carefully cut that. So you want it 10 millimeters overlap on each side of your hole. These holes in this bonsai pot are, I find, quite large. They're probably the size of a, well, let's just measure it up. They're 35 millimeters, which is 1 3/8 of an inch. 35 mils. And we can just chop that down the middle. That looks about it. We'll get 2. 1 for there and 1 for there. The wire holes are quite small. Not much dirt's going to get through those. The thickness of the wire is up to you. But obviously the thicker it is, the more you pay. So I'm just straightening out. I normally bend the edges around. I've seen somebody else do that, and it's just a safety issue. You don't want to have spiky bits of metal. So I normally work out the hole, and this wire's got to go through and underneath and curl around a bit. So I leave a bit on both sides, about that long, and might as well use both of those. There you go. So we put it in half, fold it up, and once you get these sort of right, they'll make for good little. So I'll just put it in there. The wire's snug on both sides. Like that. It's almost bowed. It's probably one hole too tight. I'll reconfigure that. And the good thing with bonsai wire, it's pretty forgiving. You can rewire it and rewire it, reuse it. So we turn that over, pull it tight, and I'm pushing from underneath as well. Use the pliers. We'll put a little make safe back turn on both ends, and if you want to do that again, I just like to bend it in a bit, so it's like two little arms, and that's not going to go anywhere. I've just put the second mesh in with a wire underneath. I haven't washed this pot, but if it's a second-hand pot with dirt in, you can give it a good clean, soapy water perhaps. And I've used the old brush and pan to sweep up the dirt. You might notice I've switched buckets to the red bucket now. So the red bucket basically contains the soil from the garden. Sometimes I add stuff into it depending on the type of plant, but in this case it's just sandy soil. Pour a bit in. I'm going to spread it around. There's a couple of lumps will break up. Now you can water this as you go. And also another thing I forgot to get, which is the fertilizer. Here's a product placement, Osmocote. This was recommended to me by a nursery. They're little beads, sprinkle a couple in. These ones for trees and shrubs and citrus. Perhaps a bit more. So we're just going to pop that on. Not that way. Perhaps pretty much like that. I kind of liked it leaning back. We could put on a bit of an angle there, try and straighten it up a bit. We did have it in the third rule, so that's the third again. Here it's slightly off center, so off center in the third rule seems to make sense. This sort of leaves this free. Be nice this area to be a bit more where the branches could grow into. So if I wanted to, I could try and bring a branch in, but at this point I'm not. And the top of that looks pretty much, top of the root and ground is pretty much at the top of this, and we'll taper the soil down a little bit. So there you have that. There's plenty of soil to put back in, so let's just do that. Might stand up to do this one. We're just pouring it in liberally. See, the lazy Susie comes into play here where you're spinning around quickly. Put more around there. So that's about a half full. The sandy soils, the sand is good. I'm getting a bit of rattle here. I'm not happy with that. Might just take that away for now. Okay. Spread a couple more of your little fertilizer beads in. So just pouring in the water. So normally I have the glass underneath that, because I'm making this video, I've just taken it away because a bit of water will get through onto the timber underneath, which is not ideal for the old timber. But you know, timber's been out in the rain before. Okay, so plenty more soil to go in there. So there'll be plenty of room for the roots to grow. In terms of stability, look, you know, that ain't going to knock over in any amount of wind that I have in my backyard, because I've got a pretty sheltered spot for that. That's another thing, a sheltered spot for your plants in the sun is great, because the wind tends to dry things out. So we're topping up the soil pretty good. Again, use the fork to push the soil firmly down. We don't want any air pockets. So just to recap, the plant's sitting on an extra thin bed of soil. We've got some aerial roots here that we're just tapping in. We've maintained the little rock feature. It could be scrubbed up a little bit, and we're just compacting the soil to remove any air pockets. Well, we need air in the soil. There's the famous air pockets versus air in the soil, but basically we just don't want large cavities. When you water it, the soil will fill into those cavities and have a bit of a sinking effect in parts of your pot that you don't want. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Soiled on. We'll just wet that down again. And the soil's so dry here, it'll take a while. Oh no, there you go. So you can see, because it's a sandy soil, the water does head through it pretty quick. And if you don't want root rot, you don't want the roots to be constantly like a mangrove plant, which is in water, or mangrove plants even worse, it's in salt water. So although these figs, I think it's from the Moreton Bay fig family, do grow and have been seen growing around Sydney down near the water's edge, they certainly don't like having their roots underwater all the time. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that in terms of roughing it in. I'll come back and fiddle with that later. One more little trick is to finish it off with some small gravel. So essentially we've got the moss growing around the tree centre, but we'll put gravel around the perimeter. That looks good in my opinion, and helps keep weeds at bay, and you can weed through it, and just as I often think of it as a bit of like a little riverbed. So spread that around. You can use as much or as little as you want. This is an old drink bottle that I've decanted from the packet into, but just makes it easy to dispense and hold. And again, just use your fork, spread that out, push it down. Make sure it's sort of fairly even if that's the way you want it. Now there's not much thought into the artistic look of this, but let's just say this is more like a stock standard procedure. I'll get a bit more water and water that in on the glass. See, we've got a bit of moisture come through there. Just take that for now. And there's the repot, and we're getting the water. Now, to be honest, I'm quite happy with just that look already. I can water the main trunk as well. Plants do like water. Some plants like water, say, once a week, and other plants seem to like water all the time, depending where they come. So you have to look that up. But there you go. I'll just do a slow pan, and we can appreciate the plant. And hopefully those leaves will then green up again. They've got fertilizer and they've been watered. They've got more room for the roots to grow. we are heading into a winter spell, so but these ficus are endemic, I believe, to Sydney region. So there you have it. But if you want to put more moss in around there, by all means, I just collect the moss wherever I see a mossy area. There's so many different types, but typically I break the moss down into two types. One that grows well on rocks or between rocks, and then the other one seems to be the one that likes to grow on tree trunks and branches. So if you want a moss that grows on a rock like that, then you get one that's you pick from another, growing on another rock. And vice versa, if you want one to grow over the soil and the roots, then get one from there. And they're different heights. We'll go into that separately. I've still got some weeds popping up here, but I don't know, I think weeds are... So that's that part.